Hi, I'm Helen Bauer, and this is the Heart of Hospice podcast. The Heart of Hospice podcast is your source for compassionate and informative discussions about hospice and end-of-life care. I'm a certified hospice and palliative care nurse with over 15 years of experience. Whether you're a caregiver, someone with a serious illness, or you simply need to know more about hospice care, this podcast is for you. Join me as we explore all the aspects of hospice, from the details of caregiving to the emotional and spiritual dimensions of end-of-life journeys. For more resources and to connect with me, visit theheartofhospice.com and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Keep listening for today's episode.
This is the HaloCare Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the HaloCare Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the HaloCare Network.
This episode is being sponsored by bkbooks.com. BK Books helps families and care teams understand what to expect at the end of life. Created by hospice nurse Barbara Carnes, these trusted booklets and videos explain the physical and emotional changes of dying in a clear, straightforward way. Whether you are caring for someone you love or supporting others in your work, BK Books provides reliable guidance that reduces uncertainty and helps people feel more prepared. Explore these end-of-life resources at bkbooks.com. This episode is being sponsored by Lasting Remembrance. Lasting Remembrance knows that sometimes words aren't enough. If you're struggling to find the right thing to say to someone who's grieving, a memorial blanket offers comfort and meaning. A memorial blanket will become a permanent keepsake to be treasured for years to come. Visit lastingremembrance.com today to create a keepsake that honors a memory. Use the code Heart of Hospice to receive a 10% discount.
As a caregiver for his wife, David Walsh found purpose and meaning. As a business owner, he's carrying that purpose forward, supporting seniors who want to live in their own home. David Walsh is a leading entrepreneur and the founder of a disruptive technology company called HaloCare. They have a vision to empower people to live independent and healthy lives at home for longer. David Walsh, my guest today, has a personal caregiving story mostly revolving around his wife, Beatrice. You're going to love the way he talks about her and describes her as his soulmate. Beatrice passed away a few years ago, and in her honor, David created the Beatrice Pemberton Walsh Foundation. They have the purpose of funding cancer research in the UK. David's caregiving experience, combined with his previous work at a tech company, helped him develop this new technology at HaloCare that helps seniors and other people with serious illnesses to live safely at home. So David explains to me how the technology of HaloCare works and how it creates a safe space for a person to continue living independently at home. HaloCare provides a dignified safety net without the use of cameras. That's important to remember. And it provides peace of mind for the family knowing that their loved ones are being supported and are safe. You can get more information about HaloCare at halocaregroup.com. And you can find HaloCare also on LinkedIn under HaloCare Group, and you can find them at HaloCare Empowering Wellness on Instagram. So that's halocaregroup.com. There's a lot to learn. We're talking about supporting solo agers and people who are living alone. This is a great conversation. There's a lot to learn. David, welcome to the Heart of Hospice podcast. So great to have you with me.
I'm delighted to be here, Helen, and thanks for inviting me to play a part.
Well, I am excited because I have talked to people from so many different countries, but I've never had a guest from Ireland. So where are you actually located?
Our HaloCare offices is based about 50 miles south of Dublin in a beautiful little town called Carlow. It's one of those towns that's large enough to be significant, but small enough that we all know each other. And we have a fantastic close-knit community here in Carlow.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so I'd like to do an icebreaker question just to let my listeners get to know you a little bit and let me get to know you a little bit. So if you were king of the world, David, tell me 3 people that you would choose as your advisors. And they can be imaginary, they can be living, they can be dead. It's up to you. So 3 advisors that you would have if you were king of the world.
The very first one would be a great South African man, Nelson Mandela, because I truly believe in what he stands for as an individual and the way he brought the people of South Africa together under one flag where there were poles apart in the past. The second is probably an ex-US president, Barack Obama. I think on this side of the Atlantic, he's been seen as an outstanding statesman. And again, somebody that instilled confidence around the world that the United States of America was always had our back. And he was a great friend to the Irish people. And the last person, perhaps I shouldn't mention religion, but is the most recent Pope to pass away, Pope Francis. I think what he did in terms of embracing and including groups of society that over the years were excluded by the Roman Catholic Church, he brought them in. And because we're all human beings, we all come from a different background. He saw that and he realized that the way we love each other is individual to ourselves, and he accepted that. So they would be the 3 I would love to have as my advisors, because I would trust any of the 3 of those to do and say the right things.
Wow. That's a powerful group, a powerful grouping. I like that.
Well, I think it's important that we surround ourselves with people who challenge us, people who have a value system that millions will follow, because those 3 individuals, I always felt, they did what they said and said what they did. And that's all you can ask for a human being in life. And again, I think about leadership. Leadership is not really about rank, power, authority, or title. It's our ability as individuals to influence those around us, to deliver positive outcomes in life for the people around us. And one of the things that I've realized, that leadership is entwined with integrity. Nobody's going to follow us if we don't have integrity. And those 3 individuals have loads of integrity. And again, what I've discovered over my life, that integrity is not a bottomless pit. We need to continue to invest in our own integrity. And we do that as organizations by being true to our mission statement, why we exist in the first place. Why does HaloCare exist? Right. But as individuals, we invest in our own integrity by always doing the right thing when nobody is looking. Those 3 individuals did the right thing publicly, and they also did the right thing privately. And that is how we build our integrity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the sound of this, because it sounds like this is what you have built into HaloCare in Ireland, in the UK, and now you are bringing this into the United States. Some amazing technology, and we're going to get into that in some great detail later on in the interview. But I want to start out with your personal story, because you're not just a businessman. You haven't just come up with a product or a service that's going to be of benefit that people can pay for or subscribe to. You have a personal stake, a personal experience in caregiving. And it's actually quite a beautiful story. So tell me and my listeners, introduce me to your wife, Beatrice.
Sometimes we get lucky in life. And I got lucky in meeting a magnificent woman called Beatrice Pembroke. That was her maiden name. We were together for 30 years, married for 25, blessed with 3 wonderful children, Patrick, Clodagh, and Christopher. But sadly, in September 2021, Beatrice was diagnosed with a very, very rare cancer called leiomyosarcoma. It only affects 6 in a million people, predominantly women, not all, but predominantly women. And after the first round of chemotherapy, we got the very bad news that Beatrice had only 4 weeks to live. That was the prognosis that we were given. And I'll never forget Beatrice's attitude and her response. It wasn't anger because of the late diagnosis. It wasn't fear of dying. She had great faith and she was prepared to meet her maker whenever he decided. It wasn't self-pity in terms of missing out on great family events like graduations, like weddings and so on and so forth. It was concern for other women. The first question she turned to me and she said was, after you got that news, how can we prevent this from happening to another woman? Oh. So we decided to set up a foundation called the Beatrice Pembroke Walsh Foundation, and it has 2 purposes. One is to build awareness of leiomyosarcoma and the early symptoms so we can get early diagnosis. And the second is to invest in research so that one day we'll have a cure for this illness. Presently, there is no known cure, and I say that there's a cure out there, but it's not known, it's not found yet. And so we are funding some PhD students to start the research into a cure for leiomyosarcoma. That was her last wish. But funny enough, when the doctor left the room that day, Beatrice was a woman of deep faith and she was a very strong person. And she said to me, look, I accept the will of God. I do not accept the timeline given to us by that young doctor. We've an awful lot to do, and God will give us time to do those things. All we need is faith. And I was angry, and I said to Beatrice, but we do have faith. And before I got a chance to say what use it was, Beatrice asked me the most simplistic, yet the most profound question of our 30 years together when she asked, what is the point of having faith if we don't use it? So she was absolutely right. We were to get 12 months more than the most optimistic medical opinion. Beatrice passed away in October 2022, 13 months after she was diagnosed. And it's amazing, I gave up work that time to spend with Beatrice to be her carer. And I have to say that I know you have an awful lot of listeners who are themselves family carers. But I have to say it's a great honour. It was a very, very sad time, a very emotional time. It was a great time to get to know each other again and discuss all the great things that happened in our lives. But it was, I really put it down to an honour for it to happen. It was very, very sad when she passed away, but at least we had the opportunity. And Beatrice, you say this to me the whole time. Look, we know people who lost their soulmates through a car accident very suddenly. We lost people who lost unfortunately through suicide. And we were given an early warning. So we were able to plan things. And we always saw that as a positive as opposed to a negative, albeit it was a very, very emotional time.
Interesting. David, how old were your kids when she received the diagnosis?
Christopher, the youngest, was 18, Clodagh was 20, and Patrick was 22. But Helen, can I say this? I'm delighted that they have her intelligence and her good looks, because they're true leaders. They have since September 2021, when she was diagnosed, until up to today, they have truly showed great leadership. They were all in education at the time, and instead of letting it get to them, they all put their heads down and worked harder, and they all passed their exams and graduated from university. And I know she'd be very, very proud of that fact. My daughter graduated only 6 weeks ago from biomedical engineering in one of the top universities in Dublin. Beatrice herself was an engineer. She studied industrial design back 2,000 years ago, as she would joke herself, and she was delighted that all 3 children went into studied engineering.
Oh, really?
Christopher, the youngest, is in final year in mechanical and sustainability engineering, and Patrick, the eldest, qualified a year and a half ago in chemical engineering. So look, they're great, but they've got their resilience and their leadership skills from their mother.
Yeah. Sounds like maybe they have some of that from their dad too.
I hope so. Yeah, look, I mean, they're great. They really are brilliant, and they're an inspiration to me now. That for me to have a new purpose in terms of uh, helping them and guiding them forward. That was mom's role in the past. She was brilliant. And moms do that better than dads. We dads think that we do it better, but we don't. I know for a fact that the moms do it much better than the dads. But I've stepped into that role now. And again, it's an exciting role. And I'm so proud of how they're flourishing.
So I would ask you, what did you find most challenging in your caregiving role for your wife?
I guess in our situation, the knowledge that there was not a cure, that one day we were going to have to part ways, and that was the most difficult thing. And to see Beatrice deteriorate in terms of her physical capability near the end. But look, again, I'm a at last half full type of person, and I look back at that period of time as just with great joy. One of the real tough parts is that was during COVID, and we had very, very strict regulations in the hospitals here in terms of visitations. And when you went into the hospital, it was almost like going into a prison. You had plastic sheeting between you and the patient, and you couldn't touch them, you couldn't hug them. And I have to say that was incredibly difficult. It really was, but Beatrice was so mentally tough. She made it easy for me. I know she did. Like, she never got emotional when I called to see her or when I was leaving. She said, look, we got to be brave here. Look, this is it is what it is. Millions of families around the world have gone through this before us. Let's be strong. Now, I've no doubt, like myself, when she was on her own, she had her dark moments, as I did.
Sure.
But she did make it easy. But that, to answer your question directly, I think that was probably the most difficult part. So getting her out of the hospital and getting home, that was a joy, because we spent every day together. We woke up every morning together. We went to bed every night together, and it was just fantastic to be able to do that in our own home. And I know with HaloCare now, we're supporting a lot of senior adults to age in their own homes, and I can see the similarities of why people want to do it. Beatrice desperately wanted to spend her last year at home as much as possible. It wasn't always possible because of the nature of her illness. She had to go back into hospital a number of times. But for the vast majority of the time, she spent it at home, and that was a joy.
Yeah. So home is so important to so many people. And of course, we're talking to family caregivers and we're talking to end-of-life workers. I think we've all seen that. There's a security, the familiarity, to be able to be physically intimate, to have your hand held and not be separated by, of course, the plastic sheeting of COVID is over with. We don't have to do that, but all the devices and the bed rails and the tubings that come with that. So being at home is super important. Here in the United States, we have this huge population of boomers, baby boomers, that are aging into their older years, and they are, many of them, going to be aging on their own.
Yes.
Aging on their own. My mom is a solo ager. She's 93. Some of that was choice. Some of that was circumstance. A lot of these baby boomers do not have the family support. So I want to ask, just out of curiosity, to look at your experience, did you have a lot of family support when in that last year, the last 6 months of your wife's life? Did you have a caregiving village around you to help?
We have a fantastic neighborhood in terms of our neighbors and the social circle that we have ourselves built up over the years. We live in Carlow, which is south of Dublin. We're both from southwest, County Kerry, which is really down about 200 miles away from here. So all our family is down there. But we built a fantastic social circle in Carlow. And Beatrice's girlfriends, if I can call them that, right, they were exceptional. They really were. They called every single day. Our neighbours called in every single day. Our priest called in twice, 3-4 times a week. So we had an incredible support structure there. And I think that support structure is very, very important. It really is important, and plays a huge part in the quality of life and in terms of longevity. I'm totally convinced that the extra 12 months that Beatrice got, yes, it was down to her faith and her strong personality and her positive outlook in life, but it was also down to the social circle that we had, that people could come in. And sometimes they were coming in just to give me respite. And I found out, I felt very guilty about that. send me off to leave the house to go for a walk or whatever. I didn't want to do it, to be honest. But in hindsight, it was the best thing that happened to me, because we and all caregivers need to recharge the batteries, because it's more of a vocation than a job or a role, and that takes emotional energy as well as physical energy.
Yes. I think we forget about that for caregivers, that we think of it as somebody who's physically caring for somebody. But there's so much that goes into it. I mean, the thing that you cited at first was anger, and then you talked about guilt. Yeah, there's a huge emotional component with it. And one of the other components that we worry about is safety. That's a big deal. And a lot of caregivers do not have people to step into their roles, even for a short period of time, so that they can get out of the house, even just for necessities, a doctor's appointment for themselves, much less a walk, or just having some quiet time to themselves outside of the house. And that's where the technology of HaloCare is stepping in. And I love the idea of this. I will tell you, I'm not a tech person, other than figuring out some things on my computer for my podcast. And I'm very much a touch person, because being at the bedside, the technology has to be second, right? Because we know that physical presence, the human touch is the most crucial thing. But the technology can be leveraged to where it's so useful. And that's exciting. Tell me a little bit about HaloCare and what you guys have developed there.
Yeah, maybe I'll just roll back slightly before HaloCare to a previous company that I had, a technology company called NetWatch. And what we did with NetWatch was we remotely monitored properties all over the world through their camera systems. So I was in NetWatch for 17 years. We had a great time. Sold the majority shareholding to a private equity company back in the middle of 2018. I stayed on board for another 18 months for a transition to a new leadership team, and left in December 19. So the plan was that in 2020, Beatrice and I would take a year off and go around the world and give back. I was wanted to give back to Beatrice for all the time she supported me throughout those 17 years. NetWatch was an incredible success story. We grew from one single customer to 300,000 customers across 4 continents. It was huge. It was massive.
Wow.
And I couldn't have done it without Beatrice being there by my side. So anyway, long story, we know what happened in 2020. COVID broke out. And then the Irish Prime Minister at the time, we had similar problems in Ireland in terms of our nursing homes and the huge mortality in nursing homes. And there was lots of other problems. And the then Prime Minister of Ireland was reaching out to the business community to come up with innovative ideas in relation to try to solve the problem. And some of the people I knew pivoted their companies and started making ventilators and other stuff for hospitals and things like that. And that was all good stuff. Right. So I was very conscious that during COVID, there was a cohort of people, particularly senior analysts, like your mom, solo livers in their own homes, who were forgotten about because the concentration was on the nursing homes. But you had these large cohort of people who were living alone in their own homes, and all of a sudden they were forced to cocoon, that neighbours couldn't visit, family couldn't visit, friends couldn't visit, they couldn't walk within 5 kilometres of their house, and so on and so forth. And we felt that we could come up with a solution to support those people, predominantly living alone, but not just living alone, but elderly people in their own home who choose, as we said earlier on, to stay in their own home and age in their own home as long as they can. So we want to combine cutting-edge technology, to your point, with caring people. I think that's the critical part, to empower all ages of people that want to live at home, to live independently, quality lives in their own homes.
We're going to break for just a minute. This isn't the end of the episode. There's more to come, so stay connected.
When you're caring for someone who is dying, every moment matters, and it can feel overwhelming when you don't know what to expect. That's where BK Books can help. BK Books offers compassionate, easy-to-read resources for families and professionals facing the end of life. Created by nurse and hospice pioneer Barbara Carnes, these trusted guides explain the changes that happen as someone is dying and how to bring comfort, compassion, and care along the way. People don't die like they do in the movies. Understanding what's normal can ease fear and help you feel more prepared. From short booklets to helpful videos, BK Books brings clarity to the unknown so you can focus on what matters most, being present and caring well. If you're supporting someone at the end of life, you don't have to figure it out alone. Explore the trusted resources from end-of-life educator Barbara Carnes at bkbooks.com. When a loved one passes away, finding the right way to honor their memory matters. Whether you yourself are grieving or you're looking for a way to comfort someone else who is, you want something meaningful. That's where Lasting Remembrance comes in. We specialize in memorial blankets, beautiful, personalized keepsakes that blend seamlessly into everyday life and keep the loved one present. Choose from a variety of designs, whether you want one customized with meaningful text or a photo of a cherished memory, or a timeless symbol such as a cardinal or a tree. Each blanket is thoughtfully created, professionally produced, and shipped directly to you. Sometimes words aren't enough. When you're struggling to find the right thing to say to someone who's grieving, a memorial blanket offers comfort and meaning, a lasting reminder of their loved one. Unlike flowers that fade, the blankets become a permanent keepsake to be treasured for years to come. Lasting Remembrance can help create a meaningful gift or give you comfort during difficult times. Visit lastingremembrance.com today to create a keepsake that honors a memory. Use the code Heart of Hospice to receive a 10% discount. Lasting Remembrance, comfort they can hold on to.
If we're looking at life, we go on an aging journey, and there's a window on that journey where technology in the home can play a huge role. But it's not the panacea for everything. I love the way you put it. You're absolutely right. The human touch is critical. The technology is only the vehicle to make it happen. It's not the end itself. So what we do in the home for the elderly people, we do what's been done for many, many years in relation to response to emergencies. So for about 30 years, there's been technology around that would detect a fall, but it was predominantly a wearable device. So somebody had to wear a pendant or something like that, and they depended on a sudden impact, or they had to press a button to seek for help if they fell, and so on and so forth. The technology we've developed, Helen, and it's not exclusively this, but it's predominantly contactless. So rather than the person having to wear a device fits on the wall in each room. And that device is radar-based. It recognizes a human being. There's no cameras, by the way. This is very important because the privacy and the dignity of the person is fundamentally important. So this technology recognizes a human being. It recognizes a vertical image from a horizontal image, so we know for certain that somebody has fallen on the ground. But I think what's really exciting about it from our perspective is that it's really holistic. That same technology that responds to emergencies is also building a profile of the person in the home, their normal behavior. What time do they normally get up in the morning? What time do they normally go to bed at night? So if Mrs. Smith normally goes to bed at night at 9:30 and now it's 1 o'clock and she hasn't gone to bed, we get a red flag. If she's normally up at 9:30 in the morning and now it's 12:30, she's not up, we get a red flag, and we can send notification to her circle of care, to her family, to her friends, who she decides. And that is critically important. The most important thing here is the person in the home is in complete control. They decide what devices go in, they decide who gets the information and what they can do with it. That same technology will also measure room usage. So we know what time how often somebody goes to the kitchen every day, they go to the bathroom every night or every day, how many times they go to the bathroom, how long they spend in the bathroom on average, right? So let's say somebody normally goes to the bathroom 6 times a day, and now it's gone to 16, it could be UTI. We get a red flag. If somebody normally goes to the bathroom and they're in there for 6 to 7 minutes and now it's gone to 15, 16, it could be constipation, and so on and so forth. So you're constantly building this image and information about the person, and we get red flags when it goes outside the norm. The same technology, very simple technology, tells us how many steps the person takes every day in the house. Let's say it's normally 4,500 steps and it drops down to 1,500 steps. That could be that she had an injury, or she's not as motivated as she was, or whatever happens to be the case, and we get red flags. Likewise, we know how long she sits on the settee watching television every day. And again, if it goes from 2 hours to 7 hours, it could be that she's less motivated. So we're constantly building this picture of the person in the home and getting the red flags when it goes outside the norm. We know that there's a huge correlation between dehydration and falls. undernutrition and falls. Many of our clients or customers are people that have cognitive challenges, probably early signs of dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever, and they forget to do things. So we have little tiny chips that we put on the water tap, as we call it, over the faucet that you call it, on the coffee pot, on the fridge, on the microwave. So we can never say if Mrs. Smith has taken a glass of water, but we can say for certain she hasn't, because she hasn't turned on the tap.
Right. She hasn't used it.
She hasn't used it. And we have a little chip on the medicine cabinet. So again, we can say for certain she didn't take her medication. We can't say she did. So again, we're building this entire picture around the person and getting red flags proactively when things go outside the norm. You mentioned at the start of the conversation that I think your mom has a grandpad. And I think we work with Grandpad here in Ireland, great company there, and the owner, Scott, the founder, I've become very good friends with him because we share a common purpose in terms of what we're trying to achieve with elderly people and to keep them connected. So that connectivity is a really, really important part of it. And then again, it depends on what part of the world somebody is in. The same technology we use can monitor the environment where somebody is. So in other words, the temperature in the house. So if it gets too high in the summer, we get an alert. If it goes too low in the winter, we get an alert. We can monitor air purity. So if somebody has COPD and the air in the house deteriorates or whatever, we get an alert. Likewise with the usual stuff in terms of smoke detection and still carbon monoxide detection. And so we have this really, really holistic piece, that solution to really support the person in the house. It's not just responding to emergencies like falls, or if somebody with cognitive challenges like dementia strays from the house outside normal hours. We had an incident just before Christmas last year. I got a phone call from one of our customers, the son of one of our customers, and he said, "Look, I just had to ring you before Christmas because you saved Dad's life. Dad's living alone in his own home. He's got early signs of dementia. We had a huge storm. All the power was cut in his house. There was a power cut. Our system is battery operated. It's not driven off the main power." And he got up at 2:00 in the morning, 2 a.m., wanted to go to the toilet, got disorientated, went out the back door. As soon as he did, we got a trigger, we got alert. The protocol or the care pathway was through his daughter, who was about 20 miles away. She responded. He had fallen in the yard and he couldn't get up. And not only did we save his life, but we saved him from a terrible death. And we have hundreds and hundreds of incidences like that where the technology has played a part. Again, and I do stress it again, it's not the panacea for everything, but it certainly has a huge role to play in the ecosystem.
So when your team gets a red flag, it's basically like an algorithm that's built around the person's habits. When a red flag comes up, say the client hasn't opened the refrigerator in 48 hours, say, for instance, what does your team do with that information when the flag comes up in your system?
Yeah. Well, for every single client, there's pre-agreed protocols or care pathways, and in that situation, if let's say we know this person has dementia and they have forgotten to eat, which is very, very common, then the protocol would normally be to just ring the person themselves and gently encourage them to have something to eat. Usually we say, "Did you eat something?" "Oh, yes, I did." And say, could you just open the fridge there while we're talking and have a look? And they see the dinner in the fridge, it hasn't been taken out of the microwave, hasn't been put on, and so on and so forth. So, or in other situations, it could be, we have a Circle of Care app that we call, which is the Family Carers app. And we can send a notification to them to say, "Listen, Mom hasn't eaten," because we know she hasn't eaten because she hasn't opened the fridge. She hasn't put on the microwave. So it might be good for you to call around. So the care pathways are tailored to the specific needs of the person and to their circle of care or their family carers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I would love to have this for my mom. So my mom has, I would say, mild to moderate dementia that has worsened drastically over the last 6 months. And she lives here in the U.S. in an assisted living, which means she has a professional staff. They provide her with meds. They do her housekeeping. They bring her meals. However, they are not present in her apartment all the time. So when she says that she has been up to the bathroom every 15 minutes all night long, she's terrible with time. She can't tell you what day of the week it is. We don't know if that's accurate information or not.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I think the model that you just described, an integrated model using technology, supported by people, trained people, I think that's the absolute model. That's a wonderful model because you will, to your point, get the real data, the information. It doesn't lie. The technology does not lie.
Yeah.
And if you can combine that then with the professional helpers or clinical staff, then it's a great combination.
Yeah. My mother's memory has been an issue for several years. But before that, if she thought we were getting too nosy, we were prying into her personal activities, she would just fill in the blank with something she thought we wanted to hear. My mother is shady. She is definitely a character. She is sketchy. So she would just tell a little lie to get us off her back.
Yeah, 100%. And look, and we've seen that ourselves as well. And so HaloCare is 5 years in existence now. So as you say in start, we're here in Ireland, we're in the UK, we're coming to the US in the new year, which is very, very exciting because in my previous business that was what we did as well. We brought it to the US, so I understand the ecosystem there, and we have the network throughout the country to be able to install equipment and so on and so forth. But it's interesting because that generation of people that you're talking about, in the start 5 years ago, they were quite suspicious of the technology coming into the house, that Helen would know too much about me and so on and so forth.
Yes.
But when it's proactive in the way that it is, and when they get used to it, and the great thing about it, and again, I'm not knocking pendants. They had their role in life and they're great.
Sure.
But when the technology is in the background, the person just lives a normal life for them. And that's all they want to do, is live a normal life. And the technology will recognize the changes in behavior, the abnormalities, and flag them to people that care and can do something about it. Because, when Mrs. Smith doesn't realize that her number of steps has gone down from 4,500 to 1,500. She doesn't count them, but the technology goes behind it.
Yeah.
And for somebody a trained person to ring her up or call and see her and said, are you moving around as much as you used to? She said, well, you know something, I'm not quite. And then you can have a discussion as to why that is. And she said, well, I got a bad hip, a sore hip. I'm not just as motivated as I used to be, and so on. So once there's an acceptance by the person that the data behind them is there to protect them and support them as opposed to monitor them, then it's a flyer.
Well, and there comes a point where the monitoring part of it is useful. I mean, for my mom, we have for several years wanted to place some sort of monitoring system where we could see what her activity is. But of course, we would never put a video camera in the house. No. Completely inappropriate. And she does have a fall pendant. She had one. Yes. It's in her bedside table drawer. She won't wear it. She won't wear it.
What we've learned over the last 5 years, if you force, in inverted commas, somebody to wear something, they feel monitored. If it's in the background, they feel supported.
Yes.
And your mom's story there is so typical. It really is. Or even somebody who wants to wear one and is prepared to wear it, they go for a shower, they take it off and they forget to put it back on, and then they slip and fall. Right. And you have all these problems. But again, I have to stress, I'm not knocking dependents. They have seriously a role to play. It's just technology has moved on a bit further in terms of a contactless solution.
Yeah. And my mom even has several buttons to call, the cords with buttons on them, but she's forgotten that she has them.
I know. There lies the problem.
Yeah. They're only useful if she knows how to employ them.
Yeah.
Well,
and there's another issue. I remember in the early days, we had an incident where we put the HaloCare system into an elderly woman, again, same age as your mom. She was 93, actually. And her son and daughter were living next door. We got an alert through our system at 7 o'clock in the morning to say that there was a fall. So we contacted them. They were actually heading off on a big, long journey. And they said, no, she couldn't have fallen because she has dependent. We would have got an alert and so on. And said, look, please, just before you leave, go around. And as it turned out, she fell in the kitchen and she hit her head off the table on the way down. So she was unconscious. She wasn't in a position to press the button.
Yeah, she couldn't have done it.
So, and she could have died. They were going away for the weekend, and they came back and she had a gash in her head, got her into hospital. And again, they would be the first to say that she would have passed away that day in a very uncomfortable manner, but for the fact that there was unobtrusive contactless technology in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying. It's a difference between being monitored and being supported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it. Because again, we need to respect the dignity of these people. Like I often get emotional talking about this because these are the people that built the world that we live in today.
Absolutely.
And all the privileges that we've had, that we have now, and all the sacrifices that they made back in the day so that we'd have the lives that we have today. So we have a responsibility to give back.
I agree. When it comes to the care of my mother, I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, and we try to be very respectful in getting her input and her opinion, and as much as she is able to deliberate over decisions. You know, sometimes the decisions aren't great and we don't go along with it, but that's part of the decline of her cognition, and we recognize that.
Yeah.
And she'll even tell you, she knows she's confused. She knows her memory is bad, but she is beginning, as the disease progresses, to need more support from us.
Yes.
And the assisted living is where she's going to live out the rest of her life. So to
Absolutely.
have some sort of technology that we could put in there, and I think we would probably discuss it with her at the level of dementia that she has now.
Totally.
Yeah.
But even down to very basic stuff like the door sensors. Let's say your mom got up and just wandered out of the house at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, hopefully there's security around and stuff, but if there isn't, people do wander. And but again, we will know within seconds. And
Yes.
if the person is wearing one of our watches, we have a watch as well that we can track them down to 3 feet. And, you know, I would say over the last 12 months, we probably have got people, about 500 people, back to their homes without ever contacting the police or the emergency services or anything like that, because we can track them. We can speak to them through the watch and just say, listen, Mrs. Smith, we believe you left the house, you know, and in a very gentle manner. Or the care staff we have here are they're really, it is a vocation that they have, and they know exactly. I think they treat every single client of ours as if it was their mother or father.
That's a nice thing.
It is a nice thing, yeah, and they do. They get very, very close to them. Interestingly enough, actually, our very first client that we had passed away while we had our system in his home at the age of 96. And the care staff here, the nurses, they were very upset. They really were, right? Until his daughter rang in and said, listen, guys, you made Dad's final wish come true. He wanted to age in his own home. He was, because of COVID, he was absolutely terrified of nursing homes. Again, not knocking nursing homes, but he was just terrified of them. And he always had the wish that he wanted to die in his own bed. And at the age of 96, 2 a.m. in the morning, he died in his own bed. And it lifted the spirits of our people here, because it really brought home to them the value that we were bringing to this person. The peace, the confidence we give the old man, the elderly man, to live in the home. The peace of mind that we give his circle of care, his family, that if anything was to happen, that there'd be an action plan in place. And again, that's incredibly rewarding. It truly is rewarding. And, you know, I mentioned at the start of the conversation that we live in a place called Carlow, 22,000 people, little town. But, you know, I joke about this. We'd be a tall dwarf in business terms here, if you know what I mean. So we'd be well known, right, because of our brand. So when we reach out in a recruitment drive, we get the very best people. People want to join an organization who has an incredible, strong mission in terms of, you know, helping the lives and the quality of lives of those people who built our nation.
It's amazing. It's an amazing service. So, David, if I am somebody who wants to look into placing HaloCare technology in my person's home, somebody I'm caring for, how can I connect with the company?
Well, our website is www.halocaregroup.com. And there's a very specific page there for the USA. So if you go on there and make an inquiry, then we will have you speaking to a consultant, one of our care consultants, within 24 hours. I suspect things could be very busy after a program like this. So yeah, but we endeavour to be back within 24 hours to anybody that inquires about our services.
Perfect. Perfect. I'll have a link to the website in the show notes so that any listeners that are interested in finding out more can access it easily. David, let's close with one thing. I want to ask you about your wife again. Let's touch back, because really that's at the heart of the work that you're doing with HaloCare, right? This is about easing
Yes.
things for caregivers and their carees. Tell me, what would Beatrice say about HaloCare and the work that you're doing? What would she think about the system?
Well, for starters, she would be extremely proud. She really would. And would you believe this? Our very first female client, was Beatrice's auntie of the same name, right?
Oh.
She never married. She's living on her own. She's 92 years of age. Her birthday was last on the 27th of November. She was 92. A great woman, and again, a very proud woman. But I think Beatrice would be incredibly proud of the impact that we're having on the ecosystem, because there's huge benefits to the greater healthcare system, because when you support people in the home, there is a massive reduction in terms of hospital admissions, ED visits, and so on and so forth. So apart from that bigger stuff, I think the two most important stakeholders for us is the elderly person themselves, the senior adult, and their circle of care, their family. You know, to be able to give confidence back to that cohort of people to confidently stay in their own home, which the vast majority of us want to do, to be able to give the peace of mind to the circle of care. And I know my Beatrice was very, very close to her auntie Beatrice. And when the system went in, the peace of mind that I gave Beatrice, my Beatrice, was huge. And to be able to do that on a global stage, she would be extremely proud.
I love that. I love that. Purpose in your work is the best thing you can have. David, thank you so much for coming on this show. What's the one thing I didn't ask you about HaloCare that you would want listeners to know?
The price?
Okay.
No, but because I'm often asked the price, and I hate starting the price question by the statement, well, it depends. But it does depend, right? It depends on the conditions that the person has. It depends on the environment of where they live and so on and so forth. But just to give your listeners a flavour of what the cost structure might be, a very good system would be in around $500 a month. That's what we charge. Up to, depends, it could be $1,500 a month if it's something an awful lot more complex, and if we're doing comfort calls, we have to ring the person every day and so on and so forth. So that's really the range from. Now, it may sound dear from a technology solution, but it's a 24/7, 365 service. We're round the clock.
Right.
It works best when we're integrated with physical home care, be that family carers or be that professional carers. And it's roughly a 24-hour service is probably around the same price as 1 hour of physical home care.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, David. It was great to have you on the show. I love what you're doing with HaloCare.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Helen. Thank you so much for your kindness.
Thanks for listening to the Heart of Hospice podcast. Check out our sponsor in the show notes, and please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We would appreciate it if you would share this episode with your friends and family and anyone who needs to know more about hospice. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.
This is the HaloCare Network. helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.